2, 1. Hi, good morning. Welcome back. We're day 3 of Celestial Kingdom's 60th MidReign celebration. This hour's session is Aeris DarkFlame. Its session title is Raise Your Voice. He's going to be teaching us how to sing, which is going to be interesting on Discord because there's a lag and a delay between things. So it's going to be interesting and fun. He does want participation, so please, if you are in an area where you do not have too much background noise, you are more than welcome to click on your mics and sing as he gives you directions. Iris, you might want to direct specific people just to keep things from getting too cluttered on the mic. And I'll just focus on you and turn off my video. I'll click it on back and forth as we go along. But without further ado, Iris from Slaughter Creek.
Hello, everybody. How are we doing today? My name is Lord Squire Aeris Darkflame. I'm the current Baron of Slaughter Creek, and I was asked to come and teach you my class that I developed on how to sight sing in 3 easy steps. These 3 easy steps can be found in the course materials that I had on the website. It basically goes into 3 different, or three in 3 different areas. Number 1 is learning a basic tonal scale, otherwise known as solfege, or if anyone's seen The Sound of Music, it goes the do re mi scale. Then looking at the applied music as it's written on the page, figuring out where that scale meets with that with the written notes on the page, and translating it to where you can sing it directly off the page. Now, for those of you who don't have any musical experience, that's fine. I've designed this course to be completely beginner friendly. And so yeah, let's get started. I have up, if I can share my screen here. Let's see here. There it is. And let me go ahead and share this.
Hey, you're talking about the what's it called? The course materials?
Yes.
Okay.
Ooh, neighbor dog went crazy. All right.
I've got it up on the YouTubes as well.
Oh, cool.
Those of you just joining, hi, welcome. We are with Iris. He is teaching us how to read music and sing.
All right, so it's not letting me share it, unfortunately. My
Letting you share.
It is being a horrible thing right now. But anyway, if any of you do have the course materials up, I'm going to be referring to those. So the first thing we need to learn is, what is a scale? A scale is comprised of 8 notes, and it was developed by the Greek philosopher and mathematician Polaris. And he found that if you take a string, right? You take a string and you pluck it, it will make 1 note, a boom. If you take that string and you divide it in half, and you pluck 1 of the halves, it will make the same note 1 octave higher. Boom. So using simple fractions, he developed a 4-note scale, bum, 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 bum. And dividing those further, he developed the 8-note scale that we still use today. And this, of course, is the do re mi scale. Up until about, I want to say, 200-300 years ago, we didn't have physical representations of this scale. And this scale was designed to teach music students how to vary your notes and understand the relationship between them, so that you can hear it in your head, and therefore either sing it or play it if you're on an instrument. So the basic notes are do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. Now notice that the bottom do and the top do are the same note, just one is higher than the other. To put it scientifically speaking, the higher do is approximately twice as many hertz or twice as many vibrations as the bottom do. And you can keep going in the same scale forever. So do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, re, mi. You keep going higher and higher as much as you want. Now, once you understand how that sounds together, you can apply it to written music. And once you know where your do lies within any given key signature, you can sing pretty much anything. So a good form of practice for beginning singers to understand the relationship for these notes is to relate them back to do. Now, do is the tonal note or the home note, as we call it, because for anyone who has ever heard music, and I'm pretty much sure that that's all of you, you can hear it always gives you that sense of satisfaction to come back to the home note. When it ends a song, it just like, oh, okay, that's the end. It clicks in your brain, and that's why it's called the home note or the tonal note. And so once we understand that scale, I'm gonna lead you guys in a bit of an exercise if you want me to. So who wants to go first? Whoever wants to go first, go ahead and unmute your mic, because we're going to have to do this individually because of lag.
I'm giving people a chance to unmute if they want. I see Clue, whose name is DeBard, so I know that he might be interested in singing. LSJ has a gorgeous voice.
Yes, she does.
Torg is on the line. I don't know if he wants to give it a try. I've never heard him sing, but that could be fun.
Sorry, I'm setting up my tripod right now, but I can give it a whirl if you want.
All right.
All right, cool. All right. So first off, what we're going to do is we're going to go through the scale, starting at the low do and going all the way up to the top. And what we're going to do is we're going to go from do and relate it to all of the other notes within the scale. Are you ready?
Sure.
Okay, just follow my leader, right? Do. So start off with me. Do, re,
mi,
I guess I'm done.
fa, sol, la, ti, do.
Excellent. Excellent. So now, what I mean by relating all of this to do is we're going to go do, then the next note in the scale and go back down to do. So it'll be do, re, do, mi, do, fa, do, and so on and so forth. Does that make sense?
Yes. I'm getting a lot of static from your mic on my end. I don't know if it's just my phone or what's going on.
No, it's not your phone. We think it's part of his connection. He's hearing us a little staticky as well. So we're just going to push through.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure it wasn't just me.
I am sorry about that, folks. I'm on a wireless internet, and I'm in the very south of the city, like on the very border, so it might affect my connection a little bit. So anyway, excuse me. So we're starting off with do, we're going to start do, re, do, and do, mi, do, and so on and so forth.
All right, LSJ, sounds like he's wanting you to go ahead and go do, re, do. Do you want to do it, or you want me to give it a try?
You can do it. I'm having problems hearing him.
Okay, no problem. Okay, so it sounded like your tonal note was do. Is that the right pitch? Do, re, do, do, mi, do, fa, do, so, do. Am I right so far? We're having some technical issues. Looks like his internet is bouncing. Shock. I don't know if that shocked face was terrible or if it's the static or. Yeah, his internet is real bad right now. Okay, so he was doing, I'm just going to fill time right now while his internet tries to stable. He was doing his solfege with the hand motions as per the hand motions, the solfege scale, which is showing on screen right now in the YouTube. So do, re, mi, fa. I'm not familiar with those. I don't know if you caught it while I was doing those. I was doing these kind of weird hand thingies with my left hand. I'm a string player, and so what these were the fingering patterns of my string instruments to create those notes based off of my instrument. And so for me, this physical motion in choral singing, when it's just the voice and you're learning just the voice, is the physical aspect to get them to have this kind of much bigger motion of muscles they know how to control, to help them find those notes in those intervals so that they can go do. I don't know what the
turned it
do, re, mi,
better when I
do,
moved
mi,
inside.
so they can do that interval. Oh, hi. Yes. Internet. Welcome back. Yes.
Yeah, I moved inside. The lighting may be more horrible, but at least the internet connection's better.
It's okay. The lighting is actually not terrible.
Okay, cool.
All
right, so here's what we were
what
doing.
I was doing was I did all the way up to so.
Yeah.
And then I was commenting about the fact that you were doing your solfege with hand motions.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I went to try it, I wasn't doing with big hand motions. I was doing these little minute, little tiny motions with my hands and my fingers. And I was explaining that I'm not a voice student. I'm a string instrument, and that these are the same things, but on my instruments. So that's where I
Right.
was.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how much of the interval leaping you heard.
I did. I heard all the way to so, and then everything froze, and I'm like, ah! All right. Okay, so
Okay.
yes, the interval leaping is the next step in learning the scale. So, do re do, do mi do fa do so do la do ti do do.
Okay.
So yeah, once you practice the interval jumping a little bit, you'll start to understand more about how the notes relate to one another, and it gets into your head. So now, does anyone have any questions on how the solfege scale works before I move on?
Sorry, little flies getting to me.
Anyone have any questions at all about solfege or how the tonal scale works or anything before we move on to actual written music?
I don't see any text questions coming in on Discord. I don't see any coming in on the YouTube stream, although we do have someone watching. So hello, watcher on YouTube. Don't know who you are, but you are welcome to use the live chat. I'll pop over once in a while if you've got questions for us. But no, it doesn't look like there's any questions. So let's go right on into the reading of the music.
Okay, so I'm going to make it simple. There are 3 different clefs in written music. There is treble clef, bass clef, and I think it's tenor clef.
Alto clef.
Alto clef. That's what it was. So I'm going to make it simple.
Okay.
We're only
There
gonna...
is tenor clef. You're not wrong, but tenor clef is alto clef placed in a weird spot.
Oh, okay. But so we're going to make things simple. Everyone starts off with treble clef because it's the easiest one to understand. So that's the one that I'm going to work with now. If you refer back to the packet that I have all of the notes written out. Now, in written music, the notes become a little bit different. Instead of having 8 notes in a scale, you now have 7 notes. And to make it universal for anyone who's reading it, it goes from these notes are named from A to G. So A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And the reason that there are only 7 notes instead of 8, as in the tonal scale, is because the 8th note in the tonal scale is the exact same as the first. So if you're going A, B, C, D, E, F, G, the next note, of course, would be A, and then you start all over again. Now, if you look at the treble clef, it's a staff composed of 5 lines and 4 spaces. And this is where all of the notes are written out. Now, the main point about treble clef is that it sits right above bass clef, right? And right in between them is one note on a line, and that is middle C. And middle C is the exact middle note on a piano. It's the basis note for pretty much all basic music written in treble or bass clef.
And to give you that other clef that you talked about, the alto clef literally sits between those, and its middle note is middle C. And so
Correct.
It is literally smashed between treble and bass.
So middle C is used as the home point. And we'll get into why that is in the third part when we talk about key signatures and how to tie everything together. But so if the one note that sits in between the 2 clefs is middle C, then that means that the next space above that is D, which brings us to the first line of the treble clef staff, which is E. Now, if you look back at your materials, everything is lined up to where all of the lines and all of the spaces have their own individual note names or note letters. And if you want to remember which note sits on which line of the treble staff, the treble clef staff, you just have to remember a simple mnemonic. Every good boy does fine. E, G, B, D, F. And those are your 5 lines. And if you want to remember which notes go in which space, it's really easy. They spell out face, F-A-C-E. The face, yes. So when looking at written music, they will never change. The major difference between written notes and tonal notes is that the tonal scale can be put into any key signature, and the notes will always have the same relation to each other. However, in written music, that note will always be the exact same tone. Unless, of course, you have an incidental, but we're not getting into that. That's a little bit more complicated. So yeah, the note as written on the page will never change. It will always be the same pitch, same sound, whatever. Now, does anyone have any questions about how these notes are written before we move on how to tie everything together? Because I know this is getting into a bit more music stuff, and it's a little bit more complicated. Things may not make a whole lot of sense. I know 3 of the people listening right now, including our lovely moderator, are familiar with reading music. So
We don't have any questions, but we do have Thadagrin and I chatting in the comments, or rather in the Discord chat. Thadagrin says, "Sure, leave it to Iris to get us all in trouble." And I responded with, "What a basic joke." And he comes back with, "Are you saying it fell a little flat?"
Oh, music jokes. I love it. I love music jokes. So, all right. Now, how do we tie everything together? Now that we know the relationship between the different notes and how they sound together, and how we know that notes are written on the sheet, on the actual page, how do we put the tonal scale onto written music? The answer, my friends, is a key signature. You'll find the key signature at the very beginning of the piece of music, right after the clef. This is denoted by a series of sharps, which look like little tic-tac-toes. Yes, it's an excellent example right there. Sharps are tic-tac-toes that indicate a major key, and flats look like little bees, and they denote a minor key.
Not always. I'm going to correct you on that one, sir. Not always.
Most of the time. Most of the time, that is correct. Yes, we've all heard Rhapsody in Blue. But anyway, so the key signature tells you how to put the tonal scale onto written sheet music. And it does this by indicating to you which notes should be flatted or sharped during the course of the music in order to provide you with the scale. So the first thing you need to do is look at the key signature and figure out where your do or your tonal note, your home note, is. And if you have sharps as your key signature, the easy mnemonic to remember is that the terminal tic-tac-toe is T. So for the last sharp in the series of the key signature, that is your T note. So you just go one little spot above it. If it's sitting on a line, you move to the space right above the line, and that gives you your do.
Okay.
That is your do note. Now,
I'm learning some things here because I don't sight read. I play musical instruments, so I don't care where do is.
Right.
I just need to know what the funny symbols mean for the spaces between my fingers when I set them on my instrument. So this is new. So you said the terminal tic-tac-toe is
Correct.
T. I happen to have some singing music. This is the last from the Low Country.
Mm-hmm.
I had some thoughts about trying to learn this one. But here is my key signature. 2 sharps. That is an F sharp and a C sharp. And that means that my T is C.
Correct.
Which means my do is a half step up.
Which makes it key of D.
D. And I could tell you looking at this is the key of D because I have memorized for my instrument 2 sharps is D major or related F minor, but yeah.
Now, if your music has a series of flats instead of sharps, the final flat is fa. So
this is the Robin and the Thorn. So 4 flats. My final flat. That line is B, that space is E, then A, then D. So my final flat is D. You said that's fa.
Correct.
So I go fa, mi, re, do. Fa, mi. I have to do this like, hang on. This is really hard for me. Fa, mi, re, do. So it's that A.
Correct. Yes.
This is A, but I have a flat on the space that is A, so it's not A, it's A flat.
Correct. Correct. Isn't that awesome?
See, and I learned with music, I learned 2 flats is D, and
3
then
flats is E.
with flats, you just knock off the last flat, and that second to last flat is your key.
Correct. So this is why I wanted to teach you with mnemonics so that you can keep it in your head and it's easy to remember. The terminal tic-tac-toe is T, so you just go one little space above it, and that's your do note. The final flat is fa, so you go 4 notes down below, and that's your do. Well, 3 after that one, I guess. I don't know. I don't know how to count.
Me either.
So,
comments about me teaching that. Thank you very much.
So once you find your do note, all you need is a simple instrument or a pitch pipe, a piano, something like that, to play that note. Remember, the note as it's written will never change. You're just trying to figure out where you need to start your tone, where you need to start your scale. So if there are no sharps or no flats, then it is in the key of C. Remember, C is the central note in the middle of the piano. It's the note that both of the clefs are based on. So if there are no flats or sharps, it's going to be in the key of C, which means there's going to be no incidentals, no sharps or flats, unless they are actually written to accompany a note during the piece to add a little bit of flavor. So,
like seasoning.
Does anyone have any questions? Because I know that was a fairly complicated bit of beginner music theory. So does anyone have any questions about key signature?
I'm looking. I don't see any questions on the YouTube, so we still have our viewers. So thanks for sticking with us, viewer on YouTube. No comment yet from that person. I don't know who it is. Thad had worried, remember, with our joke sequence, he was worried that the jokes were falling a little flat. And I assured him that no, they weren't falling flat. It was good. And he goes, oh, excellent. I was worried I might have to give it a rest. Which was exactly my response to him. I just lolled.
Yeah.
No questions. I think everyone's following along pretty well. Or we're just wonderful background noise.
I love music jokes. I really do. My friend, Lady Ziana, who plays at my park, she actually posted something on Facebook. It said, it was using all musical references. It was a note that says, help, I'm in treble. Right? The treble clef. I'm in treble.
My tire has a flat.
Yes, my tire has a flat. It hit something sharp.
I must have run over something sharp.
I love that.
Yeah, my husband, he started cackling, and I wandered over to his computer. I was like, what are you cackling at? And he showed it to me, and I just kind of read it real quick. I was like, is this guy okay? Like, do we need to call? And he just kind of looked at me, and I was like, oh. It's because I read it so fast that I didn't even realize that.
Yeah.
Special.
No, you're a musician. This is how your brain automatically. So anyway, I've included in our course materials a very basic song at the end. A lot of you will recognize it, but for anyone who has ever watched Sister Act 2, some of you may not. So the song I've included is in the key of C, and it's a song that pretty much a lot of us grew up with. It's Mary Had a Little Lamb. And I picked this song specifically because I wanted you to hear the song itself, because we all know Mary had a little lamb. But if you look at the music itself, okay, now that we know what a tonal scale is, now that we know what note names are and how to apply the tonal scale to the note names, it becomes a lot easier to read it. And you can actually hear the song as you work through it. So if you will all look at that piece of music, you'll notice that it is
on screen for those in YouTube. For those not in YouTube, here on Discord, you know what? Let me see if on my secondary accounts I can get that stream, so that way we can have everything showing up.
Yeah, because my computer's not letting me do it.
Okay, yes, so that's working. Okay. It just looks really funky. There we go.
Yay! All right.
It's there, yay!
Okay, so if we look at this piece of music, you will see that since it is in the key of C, your do note is going to be middle C, which, as I said before, is the note that's right underneath the treble clef line. So that's your do. So who here can tell me what note in the tonal scale we start on? Which do, re, mi do we start on?
Hang on, I'm having some. There we go. I think this over. Okay, it's the key of C, which means it's C.
Correct. C is your do note. So which note are we going to start on for Mary?
Oh, which note are we starting on? Okay.
Uh-huh.
Okay, and I'm trying so hard to do this from a solfege point of view and forget my instrumentation, because for my instrumentation, I know exactly which note this is. It's E. So, okay, mi.
Correct. We start on mi. And so now that you know, I can't find my pitch pipe at the moment. Oh, it's still outside.
It's okay. We'll just make the pitch. Let's give our middle C as this feels right. So that feels right for middle C for me for some reason today. So it starts do, re, mi. It starts on me. So
now if you look at it, it goes mi, 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 re, do, re, mi.
Okay.
Re, re, mi, so. Right? Yeah. Mi, so. Mi, re, do, re, mi. Oh, I can barely see this. Hold on.
I'm very sorry.
Mi, re, mi, re. There you go.
Small side, and I understand that's
a good form of practice.
Trying to get
a good form of practice when learning how to sight sing off the page is that once you have your tonal scale figured out and put to your key signature, to go through your piece, right? And underneath each note, write what note that is in your tonal section. So you would have M, let's see, M, R, D, R, M, R, 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 M, S, S, and so on and so forth, right? Just to remind you of what note it is. Then you can give it a couple of practice runs. So, mi, re, do, re, mi, re, mi, so. See? And then once you have the actual, line memorized, then you can add words. So, Mary had a little lamb, Mary had a little lamb whose fleece was white as snow. So it really is a matter of starting with the tonal scale, which once you practice it a few times, it will be ingrained into your brain. Trust me, it will be ingrained into your brain and you will never get it out. And then it's just a matter of memorizing which note is on which line or space of your clef, and then applying the tonal scale to that. Once you have your do note and you hear it, then you can just work through it using solfege and you can sing it right off the page.
Now, what I find really neat about this and the flexibility of singers versus what it is that I was trained to do as an instrumentalist is when I'm seeing a piece of music like this, it has to be in this key, and those notes are those sounds. So when I look at this, my brain goes to that string, that finger position, that arm position, and it goes, Mary had a little lamb, little lamb, little lamb, and that's it. Whereas singers look at that and go, this feels a little low for me. I don't want it here. I'm going to change it. And so I'm going to make my do, instead of being here, I'm going to put it here. And then they go, Mary had a little lamb. And I had to do that without looking, because the moment I turn and I look at the music, my instrument's going to come back to me and I'm going to revert back to what pitch those notes are requiring my instrument to make, as opposed to being at the service of what my voice wants it to be. And that flexibility I always found so fascinating and so liberating compared to what I have to do with my instrument.
Right. Singers do have that versatility, but unfortunately, it only works when you're not looking at the music or when you don't have any background accompaniment. So you can sing it in whatever key you feel comfortable in. And I'm sure we've all done that. We have all done that. Listen to a song
Yeah.
on the radio that you get really familiar with, and you'll find yourself that when that song isn't playing, you'll sing it in your own key that makes you feel comfortable. But as soon as that song comes back on that radio, ooh, you learn quick that you learned it wrong.
Well, I wouldn't say you learned it wrong. You just learned it in a key that felt more comfortable to your instrument, which is your voice.
Correct.
Last night's Bardic performance with Siobhan, she taught me most of those songs. So a lot of the songs she was singing, there was a few that were new, but a lot of the songs that she was singing, I remember. Like, I sat at her feet learning those songs, and I've now 20 years departed from that lesson. I'm sitting there re-singing them and going, I have changed the key. It is so different, and trying to keep up with her, realizing I made those changes because, like, when she did Little Brown Mouse, she sings it up at little brown mouse, come and play me a song. And it's really, I mean, that's head voicing. It was really breathy, and I can't belt that. So if I'm going to go into, competition where I'm not mic'd, I need that a little lower. So I need to be little brown mouse, come and play me a tune. And so for me now, that lower is much more comfortable than that breathy high. It's coming back to me now. It's floored me that the voice allowed that.
I feel you on that, Katrisa. I really feel you on that. I started off as a as a musical theater guy. So I'm sorry, girls get the best songs, tenors get the second best songs, basses hardly ever get any songs, and I'm a baritone. So I had to.
I agree with you completely. I'm a mezzo soprano, and musical theater and operas back in the day were very much soprano heaven, and pretty much nothing else existed. But I think that the musical culture now is switching to the mezzos. And
you know who changed that, don't
all the
you?
best stuff is written right in my range, and I'm just like,
you know who changed that, don't you? It started with Mary.
No.
It started with Mary Martin, but the person who really revolutionized musical theater for a mezzo soprano, Barbra Streisand. Barbara's a mezzo. Nobody really remembers that. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
She can hit some of those soprano notes. She can, but very rarely does she do it.
Oh, yeah. Once it goes to the very top of the staff, that G, that A, we're starting to get brassy on me. B flat. No, please, no. For the love of God, no. Don't make me hit a B flat up there. I can't. Maybe once upon a time I.
So anyway, we as LARPers have access to a lot of old folk music. So we can really tailor that, because folk music, you can play it with an instrument if you want to, but most of that music is really designed to just be sung a cappella around a fire. Or and for those of you who aren't familiar with the term, a cappella means without music. So you basically sing it without accompaniment. But yeah, so most of the songs that you're going to find in the LARP community are meant to be sung a cappella. Very few of them actually have musical accompaniment that go with it, and if they do, they're not really used unless you know somebody who knows how to play an instrument, which is few and far in between.
Or can play it yourself.
Right.
I've made mention several times already in the past few minutes on this stream that, yeah, I'm an instrumentalist and a vocalist, but that doesn't mean that I can do them at the same time, because while I'm doing this here with my hand motion, this is not a guitar. I'm I'm a violin viola, so I can't. It's hard to play the instrument, which is resting here under my jaw, and sing without distorting one of the two sounds. So yeah, no, acapella is definitely the name of the game.
The only people that I've actually seen that will play a violin and are bluegrass instrumentalists, and those that can play a mean Irish fiddle.
Well, in that case, we're talking difference of technique at that point.
Exactly.
Irish fiddle, traditional fiddle, is played a little lower, and they're resting it almost here on their collarbone, like here,
right.
And they're supporting the instrument, the neck of it here, and so their hand position is here, whereas classical, it's up here on the shoulder, trapped between the top part of the clavicle and your jaw. And it's because this squeezing right here is holding it up. And I've done to the point where I put my instrument and then I've dropped my arm and I'm walking around with this instrument sticking out of my face. And it's because I don't want any weight of the instrument here to allow me to slide my hand on the fingerboard to reach some of those really high notes, which doesn't happen in fiddle. You don't get the slide positions in fiddle, usually.
So we have about 15 minutes left in the class. So if anyone has any kind of general questions for me or for Lady Claudia up there, Lady Catrice, we can open the floor to general questions. It can be about sight singing. It can be about instrumentation, performance, what have you. Because I see a midnight poking through here, and that man is always bubbling over with questions.
And I'm seeing my Allura Dragon online as well, and I know that she's learning to sing. And I think I give very bad singing advice to her because she's my baby. So having Iris on screen, let me point this way so that it's correct on screen. Iris this way to me on the stream monitor. He's a voice person, so Miss Allura, if you're listening in, you can ask him your questions, and you can sing a little bit for him, and he can diagnose what you do.
Quick question for you ladies, and I don't mean to get too personal, but this is something I feel very strongly about. Has Miss Allura's voice changed yet? It has.
Yes.
Okay. Good.
Yes, it's deepening. It's starting to feel like she's much more an alto, or will end up being an alto, than she was. I remember our carpool karaoke, she would always take the high voice with her, little 6-7-year-old voice. And now she's like, no, Mom, I'll take the guy's voice. You do the girls. And I'm like, oh, God, let me stretch a little bit.
Yeah, that's something that I feel very strongly about. I've been approached by a few people to have me teach their children how to sing. And I refuse to teach anyone how to sing until after they've hit that puberty point to where their voice has changed. Because you see all of these wonderful, like, take America's Got Talent, right? You have all of these 6-7-year-old singers that are phenomenal, right? And I will admit they are phenomenal. But they have learned how to use their instrument before it has changed. So
they're going to have to learn it, aren't they?
Exactly. So anything I could possibly teach them about how to use their instrument now would completely go out the window when their instrument changes. I mean, I use this as a very good example. There was a country singer, a young boy by the name of Billy Gilman. He's the youngest ever person to have a #1 hit on the country Billboard charts with a song called One Voice. And the last time we saw him was as a 20-something-year-old man trying to spot on The Voice, and he wasn't picked by the judges.
No, poor thing.
And it's because his voice had changed so much when he grew up that he had to relearn everything. And even though he was a phenomenal singer as an 8-year-old boy, as a 20-year-old man, he was very mediocre. So that's why I feel so strongly about that. If your child is interested in music, teach them an instrument first. get it into their body, get the rhythm into it, make sure that they understand what they're listening to and how they hear it, and then you can teach them how to sing.
Well, I started singing in church choir when I was very, very little.
Same.
I did church musicals and, had leads and solo parts a couple times. And then when I went into junior high, which is about when the voice is changing, I went into choir first. And it was a struggle. It was really hard because, notes that were easy to hit or that runs that felt comfortable, suddenly I could no longer do. And it was frustrating. And then coupled with the fact that all of my elder siblings who were finishing high school, getting out of high school into college, they were all orchestra. Yeah, I was trying to set myself apart by going into choir because, I'm the baby and I have to be special. So, Mom, I'm the singer. I'm not the viola or the violin or the cello. Thank you, Mom. But after that first year, 6th grade, I was like, I still want to sing, but this is much more than I want to do. So I switched over to orchestra, and thank goodness for Alora's life that I did, because that's where Dawn and I met. It was in junior high orchestra. But yeah, I kept singing throughout that time, but in LARPs. I had stopped going to church by that point, and I was just doing LARP singing, sitting at Siobhan's feet. So I think I worked that instrument through that period and didn't have any formal training, but just taught myself how to keep using it.
You want to hear something that'll shock your socks off?
Oh God, is it going to date me again?
No.
Okay.
When I was 10 years old, I was a first soprano.
Oh, that's not shocking to me at all. When I was 10,
Now
I was
I'm a baritone. So,
well, I mean,
yeah.
the voice changes so much.
Mm-hmm.
These muscles in here that are what we're using to control that sound. To get those high notes, those muscles have to be really kind of short so they can vibrate quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're a small, your neck is not as long, so your muscles aren't as long, and so your voice is high and squeaky. And as you grow up and you get taller, your neck kind of stretches out and lengthens, and suddenly you've got this very deep voice.
What is the most important body part to use when singing? The brain. That's exactly right. A lot of people will say it's the diaphragm or the vocal cords. And while they are very important, singing is 85% mental. 85% mental and 15% skill.
Yeah, especially if you're trying to emote, because you have to think about what it is you're trying to convey, what your body is saying toward that, what your face is saying toward that, what your eyes. I mean, even if we're this far away and I've got the camera and I've kind of sat back a little bit so you don't have a clear view of my eyes, on top of the fact that I'm wearing DarkFlame glasses, there's a difference in my eyes when I'm just kind of talking like this to when I'm showing some excitement and I widen them, suddenly you can see them. And, my eyebrows get up and changes the shape of your face. And so when you're doing those bardics, if you're doing a vocal performance,
I'm all of a sudden reminded of that one scene in Glee where Idina Menzel, who was in charge of the rival choir, looks at Jesse St. James and she's like, "Jesse, give me a show face." She's like, "That's a show face." But anyway,
I've got do you have any songs, Iris, where you're trying to do the emotion and you find that you can't get through it
without breaking down?
Yeah, that you have to how do you think through that? Because I've got this one song that I tried it for a Dragon Master and it was a complete flop because I broke down 4 words into it because I knew what was coming. I knew what the song was. And
I don't have any singing advice for you. I do have acting advice. Because that's what it is. If you have a piece that is too tough to get through because it messes with your emotions that much, then the best way to do it is to turn your singing self into a character. You turn your singing self into a character and you step back from the performance. You let the character become your tool, your instrument. It's not just your voice anymore, it's your entire being. You step back from that person and you are now the puppet master controlling that character. Because if you put yourself too much into it and you and your character are one, then yeah, you're going to break down. But if you step back from it for a little and just feed it the emotion, then that's how you can get it. The one song for me that I could never get through without breaking down was Not a Day Goes By from Merrily We Roll Along. I've sung that for you. And it's a song that has a very personal connection to me. And I can only sing it sober. Because if I've had anything to drink, I will cry by the end of it. Especially on that line, what was it? You're somehow a part of my life and you won't go away, so there's hell to pay. Because you have to, it's forte, it's loud. How do I do this? It's just somehow a part of my life, and you won't go away, so there's hell to pay. Because you have to bring it back like that.
Yeah, so it's a really harsh decrescendo.
Mm-hmm. And to try and capture that emotion, it gets me every time. Every time.
Well, the song, the one that I have trouble with is Soul Bard, and I don't know who it's by anymore. Alora had requested it from Siobhan, but Siobhan didn't know it. And it's just, I can't even find a character. I can't even use my LARP character for it because the person that it's singing for was turned in and out of LARP. So anyway, I'm going to brighten this back up because we're going to go down a very sad road if I don't. We're at that time limit. We didn't have any questions come across on any of the forums that I was looking at, and I didn't see anyone turn on their microphones for questions. We did get an extra viewer though in the past couple minutes, so yay to the extra viewer there on YouTube. Thank you so much.
The viewer.
Huh?
I said, Vivat the viewer.
Vivat the viewers. Yay. And then we lost them. Great. So we did, they got camera shy.
I scared them.
I was the viewer. I wasn't able to hear my mom, so I disconnected and reconnected so I didn't have to watch the stream.
Makes perfect sense. Thank you for being the viewer. And yeah, so coming up in the next few minutes is Surreal McLeod, Her Majesty herself. She has just joined the chat channel. Hello, Surreal.
Hello.
You're up next with Cooking Feast Part 1. The Refrigerator Raiders are cooking feast for us. I know this is a virtual online format, and you guys are, how in the world are we going to cook feast? But she's going to walk us through cooking. Her part 1 is always the most important part of the meal, dessert first. So those of you watching on YouTube, stay tuned. The next stream that will come in will be her. For now, thank you, Iris, so much for coming to us from Slaughter Creek, joining us today to work on raising your voice. I learned a bit more about vocal sight reading, even though I defaulted back to my comfort zone of my instrumentation. Thank you again, and we'll see you later.
It was my pleasure.